Joining us now in the iTricks interview is an accomplished magician and mentalist, and he's also been a producer on some of the most influential magic television of the last 10 years. It is our distinct pleasure to welcome, live from London, Anthony Owen. How you doing, Anthony?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you doing, Justin?
I'm doing great. It is fantastic to have you on for an iTricks interview. I know we've talked to you on the Magic Week in Review, but I feel like this is definitely going to be something that everyone's going to be able to get something out of. So thank you for making the time.
No problem. And is this your first transatlantic video chat?
For iTricks interview, yes, it is. This is the first time that I've had to battle the 5-hour time difference.
Sorry about that.
It's no problem. You didn't. It's not your fault. You guys are 5 hours.
If I could do anything about it, I would.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's just start with the questions. This is one of our favorite ones. How did you decide to go pro? And we define pro as when you knew that you were going to pay your rent and everything, the groceries and everything else that comes along with it, by your art and not a day job.
Well, I've never done anything but earn my living from being a magician, so I never had to make that transition from having any kind of proper regular job to...
Okay, so I guess the question for you then would be, why did you decide to never take a 9-to-5 gig?
I remember being about 8 years old and taking a test in school and having to fill in a form, and one of the questions was, what would you like to do for a job? And everyone was writing down fireman and policeman and all those things that you do when you're 8 years old. And I remember being 8 years old and knowing that I wanted to be a professional magician. I didn't quite know what that meant at the time, but I knew at that point in my life that's what I wanted to do. And of course, then you get to being 9, 10, 11, and careers advisors and your family sort of say, well, no, you have to have some sort of proper goals and aspirations in terms of a career. So I moved towards having a plan to go to university and go to college and get an education. But I remember the time when I decided that magic was how I wanted to earn my living. It was 1990 and I was traveling around America and spending time with magicians in America and studying with magicians in America. I was 17 years old at the time, and I was supposed to come back and go to college.
Where were you in our sea to shining seas? Where were you here in America?
I traveled all over. I traveled right across the states. I was very fortunate to spend time with magicians all around the states, and I think this moment of realization, I was probably in Las Vegas or the Grand Canyon. It was the end of my trip. I'd spent 3 months traveling around and hanging out with American magicians. And I was supposed to come back and go to university and do a media studies course. And I decided, do you know what? I don't need to go to university. I know exactly what I want to do for a living. I know exactly what I want to do for my career. And I actually turned down the course and came back. And that was when I started paying my rent and paying my groceries through doing things related to magic.
That's awesome. That is awesome. So have you ever gone back and taken any of those courses, or it's just been no?
I haven't. I've employed lots of people that have taken those courses, but, and I've taken lots of other courses. But no, I've always been very fortunate to be able to make my living performing magic or working in magic, being creative in the world of magic or things related to it.
Now, when you were touring around America, were you gathering opinions from other guys in the industry? What was the kind of sense of advice? Is there like kind of a you got to do this now or you won't do it kind of feeling?
No, actually, I wasn't. I don't think I was specifically asking other magicians about it. I was just aware of their lifestyles and the decisions that they've made, and I'm a big believer in taking action and doing something now. And there's a lot of people who put things off, and we're going to talk about other things that relate to this, but sometimes you just have to leap in with both feet and think, do you know what? I may not be ready for this, but I'm going to learn something from doing it now and taking the decision to do it now.
Throw your hat over the wall, if you
There we go. Right? There we go.
Who is your favorite performer who is not like you at all? And this is inside magic.
I would say that the performers who are not like me at all, who I love, are Penn and Teller.
They come up so much, and they've been a pick. I think even the last one we did with Brian Brushwood, it was their pick as well, or his pick as well. What is it that it's like Penn and Teller are different from everybody, and obviously everybody loves them, but they have such a specific niche.
they're just so smart. They absolutely reinvented magic, and they found themselves this little place in art, in theatre, which everybody who hated magic loves Penn and Teller.
Yeah.
And they're just unique and smart and intelligent and contemporary and feel different to any other kind of magic performers that are out there. And for that reason, I love them, and I love their work. And mainly it's because there's two of them and there's one of me, so they couldn't be any more different.
Exactly. I mean, like tonally, what is the kind of stuff that a Penn and Teller can do that you would want to stay away from?
Well, I'm no longer a performer. I'm now
Yeah.
someone who produces TV and magic shows, and I'm
Okay.
I'm a magic creative. So I don't look to them and sort of compare myself as a performer, but I
But
always
in terms of TV, in terms of what they do television wise.
yeah. I mean, I was fortunate to work with Penn and Teller actually on. We filmed their bullet catch for a show that we did for the UK called Dirty Tricks, and worked closely with Teller and Penn in filming that and finding a way to bring that to the TV screen in a way that perhaps it hadn't been captured before. And I learned a lot from that experience. They're so smart about what they do. They understand their magic so perfectly. And for me, it's just great to work with guys who get what they're doing and who do it in such a different way.
Yeah, they're certainly legends, and hopefully they'll continue to be our favorite answer for that question. I think it's fascinating. Obviously, you also you are a creator of effects. How do you decide when something is ready to be released to the general public?
Because I have a background of having been a performer, I always want to road test anything that I put out there, and because my time is now so limited in terms of my professional work and my family life, so the amount of stuff I could put out there is just a tiny amount in terms of the things that I'd like to put out there. So I'm always very choosy about what I put out there, and always make sure that it's stuff that I have tried on real people in terms of the lay people, but I also know that it's going to fool magicians too, and I've tried it on my magician friends and run it at lectures and stuff like that when I get the chance to lecture. So I'm choosy about what I put out there and make sure that everything I put out there, I know it's going to work for a real audience, and I know it's going to fool magicians too, and those are that's the bar that I set for myself, and I always try and shoot for that.
So, for a super busy television executive like yourself, where does the road testing come in? Do you just wait for someone to come in and pitch you a show, and you're like, I don't know, but can you hold on? Will you please pick this card?
Yeah, any opportunity I get when I go pay my tax bills or when I go buy stamps at the post office, everybody is a potential audience.
That is great to hear. All right, this is something that obviously you're going to have a great insight on. Where do you see television magic going in the next 10 years?
This is obviously something that I think about a lot and I've pondered a lot. And in fact, recently I did an interview with Jay Fortune here in the UK for a CD, which he's doing a series of magic interviews with lots of different people, and he did one with me, and we talked a lot about television magic. So I go into more depth on this question on that CD, which you can get from the guys at tvmagic.co.uk. Mm-hmm. But the brief answer is, I think what's going to happen is that television and all forms of television, and that includes the internet television channels that are going to spring up, and cable and the big networks, I think they're all going to become more niche. We're going to have more television than ever, and I think there's going to be more opportunities for magicians to perform on what we currently call television. And I think there's going to be more niches, there's going to be more opportunities for lots of magicians. And so I think it's something that magicians should be aware of, and they should be preparing for, and they should be learning the skills that come with capturing magic on video.
So
I remember, go on.
No, go ahead. No, sorry, I don't want to interrupt you. I thought you were done.
About 15 years ago, I was working with John Fisher, who's a big British television producer here, who produced the Paul Daniels shows and the Best of Magic shows, and the big television magic producer, and we were working together on a couple of projects. And he talked about the fact that there's no reason why there can't be as many magicians on television as there are chefs. There's all these television chefs, and they've all got a different type of performance style or personality.
Yeah.
And actually, the comparison, Jeffrey Owen as well has talked about the comparison between television magicians and television chefs. The only thing that's different is the props, but essentially what you're doing is you're going through this process. And I think John's right. I think Jeffrey's right. I think that there's huge opportunities for magicians on television, and I think that magicians who are going to be around for the next 10 years or so should be thinking about how they can be learning the skills that they need to learn to be able to take full advantage of that arena.
Now, it sounds to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, that advice is kind of twofold. Number one, you have to learn the visual medium and how to get your tricks across on a screen. But number two, when there's more television to be had, you also need to develop your niche that much more, right?
Yeah, I think the one piece of it, you asked for a piece of advice for television magicians of the future. My one piece of advice would be to be different. I get pitched by so many magicians who are either trying to be Derren Brown, whose shows I make already, so why do I need another Derren Brown? Or they're trying to be David Blaine, and David is David, and the world doesn't need another David Blaine. There is one David Blaine, and he's the star. Yeah. And the reason that David Blaine and Derren Brown became stars is because they're unlike any other magicians. At the time they came through, they were unlike any other magicians that are out there, in the same way that Siegfried and Roy were unlike anybody else that were out there, and David Copperfield was unlike anybody else, and Chris Angel to a degree was unlike anybody else. So you've got to be different to everybody else. In business, they talk about a USP, and you need to understand what your USP is, and then you've got to look at this new broad world of television. You've got to think, okay, well, I'm right for children's television, or I'm right for a family audience on television, or I'm right for a late night Channel 4 show. You got to work out what's right for you and what's different about your personality, what's unique about you.